roots. I mean, Holliday's book is super inspired by the Stoics. You know, those ancient philosophers like Marcus
Oh,
Aurelius.
yeah, I've heard of them. Weren't they all about, like, controlling your emotions and stuff?
Exactly. They were all about how it's not really the obstacle itself that defines you. It's how you choose to see it and react to it. Like, that's the real test.
Okay, so it's a mindset thing. I like that. There's this one quote, I think it's the first one from the book that really stuck with me. It says, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." So, like, obstacles, they're not roadblocks, they're more like the road itself.
Totally. Think of it like you're driving to this super important meeting and bam, traffic jam. The worst,
The
right?
worst.
But maybe that detour you take because of the traffic, maybe it takes you past this amazing bakery you never knew about. Or you find a shortcut and get to your meeting even faster. The obstacle, in a weird way, it led to something good.
Yeah, are you talking about my favorite bakery? Because that's totally how I found that place. A wrong turn. It's meant to be, I guess. And it's like what you were saying about the Stoics. It's not about what happens, it's how we react, right?
You got it. And there's actually another quote from the book that talks about this. Our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions. Because we can accommodate and adapt.
Yeah.
The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes, the obstacle to our acting.
Whoa. So even if things are totally out of our control, we still get to choose how we deal with it.
Exactly. We decide if it makes us or breaks us, you know. And the Stoics were really into this idea of like emotional regulation. You ever get feedback or criticism that just like throws you off?
Ugh, all the time.
The Stoics, they tell you to like take a breath before you react.
Mhm.
Don't just fly off the handle. Choose a response that's more, level-headed.
So it's about finding that pause, that space to really think about how you're going to react.
Exactly. Don't borrow trouble from the future, you know?
That's good advice. And I feel like that goes hand in hand with this other quote. It's like, focus on the moment, not the monsters that may or may not be up ahead. Like sometimes I get so caught up in what could go wrong that I forget to deal with what's actually happening right now.
Oh, 100%. And it's not always easy, but honestly, it does get easier the more you practice. Like one quote that helps me is, when a new problem arises, we should greet it with a smug little grin.
A smug little grin. What's that supposed to mean?
Okay, think about it like this. Imagine an entrepreneur, right? They poured their heart and soul into this business idea, but it tanks. It fails.
Oof, that's rough.
But instead of like completely falling apart, they use that experience, that failure, to learn from it. They adapt, they pivot, they start something new. They're basically looking at the obstacle as like data. It's an opportunity to grow.
See, that's what I mean about flipping the script. You take something that looks like a failure, and suddenly it's a chance to learn and grow. This whole thing really is about perspective, isn't it?
100%. I mean, Holiday even says this straight up. You will come across obstacles in life, fair and unfair, and you will discover time and again that what matters most is not what these obstacles are, but how we see them, how we react to them, and whether we keep our composure.
So it's not the wall in front of you, it's how you look at it. And that choice, that little shift in perspective, that can make a huge difference.
Huge. It all comes down to this idea that right action follows the right perspective.
I like that.
Imagine, you get passed over for a promotion. At first, you're probably crushed, right? But what if, down the line, that rejection leads you to a completely different company? Maybe a way better role that you're actually passionate about. Maybe that obstacle, that no, was actually pointing you in the right direction all along.
Wow. You just blew my mind a little bit. I never thought of it like that. And that ties into another quote that really resonated with me. It's about how we forget. In life, it doesn't matter what happens to you or where you came from. It matters what you do with what happens and what you've been given. Like, it's not where you're coming from, it's what you do that defines you.
Exactly. We all face stuff, but we have the power to choose how we respond. Every challenge is an opportunity,
So as we kind of start to wrap up this deep dive into the obstacle is the way, what's like the big takeaway you want to leave with our listeners?
Honestly, it's that obstacles are just part of life. They're going to happen. They're unavoidable, but they don't have to define us. It's all about how we choose to look at them, how we react, how we use them to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real power of this Stoic mindset. It's about taking control of what we can control, which is our own perspective and our actions.
Love it. So Instead of freaking out when you hit a wall, think of it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to maybe discover a new path you never even knew existed, maybe even a great bakery.
Maybe a great bakery.
Think about a time when things got tough and you might have let your emotions run the show. Knowing what we've talked about today, how could you have approached that situation differently? And how can you use these ideas, these stoic principles, to tackle a challenge that you're facing right now in your own life?